and good evening to everybody. Again, for this last panel. So it's my honor to somehow collect ideas. Actually, I have this wonderful device here, which is just an iPad on which I get the questions coming from the outside, so from the internet audience. So please send us questions. We will be able to get them here live answered from these experts. So, yeah, I think there was one thing today that's so obviously different to all others, that's Oktoberfest.
Sorry for that.
No, but it's...
Which is actually connected to 5G and 6G, because we have some extra antennas on the Oktoberfest in a cooperation with Deutsche Telekom. So,
okay, and here we are.
Oktoberfest means something.
And here we are. Quite some questions address the question of what are the key applications that are relevant for the 6G, or where 6G is relevant for the performance of the applications. So how relevant is 6G for Oktoberfest, let's say in 2035? So I guess we are talking a lot about visions. When we talk about 6G, it's about the range of 2030 to 2040. So let's talk about this range and the visions. So very obviously, the first question is Oktoberfest 2035. How relevant is 6G for the Oktoberfest?
As relevant as 4G and actually 5G is now for the Oktoberfest. Imagination is a bit more complicated after drinking 1 or 2 or 3 liters of beer. So I try to do it sober. The Oktoberfest now is equipped with, I think, 4 5G antennas at the moment, or at least it was 2019, the last time this happened. And we are not only controlling over 7.5 million visitors to have internet access, to have network access to make their phone calls at home worldwide. We also want to provide location-based services, meaning that the people are located wherever they are on the Oktoberfest. Meaning we can focus a special tent, regard at the tent how many people there are inside, and that's a purpose for us, because people then know it's useless to go to the Oktoberfest site to go to a special tent. That's the service which is done now, which was done 2019, and if I think about 2035, I can't think of any other things than that. I think of doing it faster, doing it better, doing it more precisely, more accurately. But in the end, it's about communication, sending photos, getting to the internet, and nothing more. But this has to work, and this isn't quite simple.
Okay, and how many people do you have in a tent?
The largest ones have about 10,500 to 12,000, meaning the inside or combined with the outside in the garden.
Okay, so that is already quite a challenge for networks.
That's one of the tents. We have 12 of these in about that size, so you can imagine there's a couple of people on the Oktoberfest side.
Okay, great. Okay, that was a very Bavarian.
Maybe we can add to that. If I think about the preparation of Oktoberfest and we think about sensing, and just imagine your phone is sensing your body, the traditional Bavarian costume you can see on your body, even you're not wearing it, and then can order that online, and you're perfectly test for Oktoberfest. So sensing and communication is combined.
Okay.
That's what was talked about today.
Yeah, and beer delivery just on time is certainly also one of the things, automated beer delivery.
And maybe the teledoctor when you were drinking slightly too much. So we can connect everything today to Oktoberfest.
Emergency services. Yeah. Okay, good. We see a huge application area around the Oktoberfest. That might be a good trial. But let's move a little bit beyond this. So a vision for 2035. So how will the world be, a connected world, be shaped by 6G?
How will the world be shaped? I think in 2035 we have made a significant step forward when it comes to sustainable networks. I believe that we will have made a big step forward when it comes to the energy consumption in the networks. I think this is key. Otherwise, the energy consumption would be way too high. I think that the joint communication and sensing as a new area, that was so this functionality that we would like to introduce in the networks, will enable new features, helping us to understand the environment better, helping to understand whether the beer glass is full or not. I mean, these are really essential things. In the area of autonomous driving, I also believe that 6G can make a big difference. We've heard this in the talk earlier before. For example, detecting exactly the situation at a traffic junction, which cars are there dangerous situations. I believe that the communication network can enhance the safety in road traffic situations quite a bit. And yeah, imagination is open. I think there are so many different things we can do with this kind of technology. What do you think about it?
Okay. Kostas.
To be honest, I'm struggling to see what will be the add-on on 6G, because if we exploit the full potential of what 5G will do, and especially I recall in my mind the question that came in the audience in the previous panel, why don't we have incremental steps? Yes, we do have incremental steps, and there is a long roadmap in front of us. Don't forget that the first implementation of 5G was a non-standalone, a radio overlay of what we had in the past, interconnected with LTE and nothing else. Now we are investing in new core networks, in full automation, on slicing, guaranteed quality of service of the services that we are offering to the end customers. And you can have any automotive application in a guaranteed manner. Even sensors in the beers, that in the glasses of beer, that can tell you exactly the temperature prior this coming to you, whatever you will like. So, all in all, I would say that the ingredients are already on the table. We just need to cook the meal differently. This is what we believe, and that's why we say that up to now we are just adding. Now we need to get rid of things and simplify things and get rid of what the customers are wanting. Because at the end of the day, it's not what we are offering. We're not building networks just to leave them out there with full capacity and wait for the customers to adopt or wait for the use cases. We need to bring something that is meaningful for the customers. And this is exactly what we are envisioning. And this is why I said that we are thinking about bringing the human back into the center of gravity for 6G. Imagine a person that enters an area and the entire area has sensors that they can adopt to the individual needs of the person. Having the light, the temperature conditions, the identity management that I'm present here, and bring me my beer, my bratwurst, or whatever, the way that I want.
Okay.
This is, I think, something that we need to think about 2035, helping the people to improve their their daily life, cutting daily activities that they are doing today and they are spending a lot of time, and use them for their well-being.
Okay. So that, of course, directly brings me to the question, Munich 2035. So you are responsible not only for the Oktoberfest. That might be an important piece of your work, but I understand you are responsible for the whole infrastructure in Munich. So if we talk about the human in the center, what will change for the citizen in Munich?
Actually, the Oktoberfest is 1/40 of what I really do. And indeed, it's the fact that I'm responsible for the technical infrastructure. Some call us the Isar Valley. And that means that the communication infrastructure in the city must be sufficient for all the enterprises, for all the companies working here. We tried to improve that with the cooperation with Deutsche Telekom, which was initiated last Friday. They are spending 500 million euros in Munich to improve the glass fiber infrastructure, which is already in a quite good situation in the city center and a bit of the city center nearest parts of Munich. But if I imagine 2035, glass fiber network or 6G has to cover the whole city. 6G will be as fast as glass fiber can be. 6G will be available to everyone without having the immense costs of putting the glass fiber beneath the earth or in some pipe or whatever. It will be cheaper data consumption. It will be accessible for all the people in the city, will be faster than it is now. That's what we expect to improve with the infrastructure looking forward to 12 to 13 years. I can imagine a lot of use cases for the elder people wearing some wearables, monitoring their health condition. I can imagine not having Wi-Fi in schools, but having 6G in schools. That's my imagination if I look forward to 2035. So to have fewer infrastructure costs, making it cheaper to have fast access to the internet, to cheap phone calls, to bring the world together in a faster way, in a cheaper way for everyone in the city. That's the main imagination I have.
So connecting everybody everywhere
Yeah,
in an affordable way.
in an affordable way. That's it.
And I would imagine public transportation will look totally different in 15 years. When we really have autonomous driving, when 6G helps us to make that come true, and when we can partly use the frequency that's needed for autonomous driving, for the scanning, for the sensing, for the radar, depending on the situation, for communication as well, and make use of that frequency in a much more efficient way. Not waste it when the traffic situation is easy, and use it for communication then, and have more green parks in the city, as we are not needing that many parking lots anymore, because cars are shared, and it's more autonomous driving.
Okay, so key enabler for transformation, mobility, but other areas as well. One question also related to you is on security and testing. So people from the audience are asking, security and resilience was mentioned as key enabler in more or less every talk today. How do we measure this?
There are a lot of things where, for example, you have to ensure that the real signal is coming to the receiver. There's no distortion. So a lot of EMC tests have to be done. So you want to avoid that your autonomous driving suddenly is not working because somebody is using his mobile phone or Wi-Fi. So you have to do a lot of interoperability tests to ensure that the different systems are according to regulation. Everybody is using the spectrum you should use, and there's no interference you don't want to have. And then you have to ensure, for example, that the GPS signal is received properly. Nobody is telling you, okay, you are actually at Marienplatz, but it's telling you at 20 meters to the left or to the right. And then suddenly autonomous driving is not working at all.
Okay.
So on things like that have to be tested, and the resilience of the devices to really see, okay, suddenly GPS signal is coming from the side, but the satellites are up there, so something is wrong. To have test scenarios for that.
So exactly the second point, I guess, is a concern. So security, in a sense of security against attackers, is there any means to get some measurement protocol? So is there any KPI for security that allows us to say, okay, now we have that security level?
None I would be aware of, but maybe that's exactly a discussion we have to get started and define, okay, how do we define security? What's important, what's not important? And the one thing is, do you feel secure? The other thing is, what's the consequence if something is happening? So if your private data is shared, okay, might not be nice, but if in the example before, the car is driving against the wall because something wasn't wrong, the result is much more severe. I think we have to have weighting factors for different levels of security and define what's really important, or maybe on the other side say who's willing to pay for what. As we're saying, cyber resilience, cyber security is something that may cost money, but the willingness to pay for that is not that high at the moment. So maybe education is needed on that.
Okay, so that is certainly one of the open research fields for 6G where we have to work on, very obviously. Okay, then there's one more question coming in, which is quite interesting. So we are still not finishing changing the infrastructure to 5G, and it's interesting to know how the jump from LTE to 6G can happen. I guess, Kostas, you are probably best positioned to comment on this.
To be honest, I think I already addressed this. There is the wrong perception in the audience and in the public that every next generation brings another air interface, another technology. Sorry, but this is not the case. At the end of the day, the end users are not interested if they will have an air interface that comes from LTE or a fiber or whatever. They need the service to be provided in a secured way and in a guaranteed manner wherever they are. So it's irrelevant if we will use LTE, 5G, 6G, fiber or whatever. What we need is to orchestrate properly the services and the networks in order all the users to have the same quality of service that they are buying from us in all the locations and anytime, 24/7, 365. I think this is the most important. Of course, we are investing heavily on infrastructure, as you said already, and also we are investing in the wireless infrastructure as well. The issue is what I have said in my previous positioning during my presentation. You can only spend €1 once. And if the governments are taking, let's say, tens or hundreds of billions of euros just for the spectrum, sorry, but the investments will be delayed. So the message to the governments is give us the allowance to have more money in order to invest in infrastructure and provide the services and the quality that the end users are expecting from us. And last point, in order to conclude my thoughts, we are not planning to have everything in 2035. Everything will come in a gradual manner, in a continuous integration and continuous development way, the CI/CD as we call in the cloud environment. Yeah?
Okay, good. There's also a question about, or something, you mentioned the spectrum and auctions. Question probably to Michael and Kostas. So we are currently having, there's a process of building a new government. Maybe that auctions are one of the topics. Would you see that sustainability and green ICT or technology sovereignty should be part of auction rules?
At least this is an interesting thought. I think we will probably see that auction rules might be changed, and as part of obligations, it could be so that also sustainability requirements are put in. At least this is a valid thought. Yeah. Yes.
If I'm allowed to add something, I think we need to define sustainability. It's not
green ICT. Let's say energy
green
efficiency.
ICT is, yes, for sure. We have to be more green and not only buying certificates that say we are green. We are buying energy from renewable sources and then introducing, let's say, solutions that they are energy hungry. We need, let's say, to consider how we can optimize the energy consumption in the networks. And believe me, there are solutions out there that are not energy friendly. Call me super vectoring.
Okay, good. Good. Many questions address a question, is there an application that best explains the difference between 6G and 5G? Performance-wise, functionality-wise, is there something where we can say, okay, this is what 6G will enable and 5G might not be able to do, even when 5G is still, as you said, evolving? So is there something that 6G is having on the roadmaps that we have not yet discussed in the 5G context?
I actually believe the biggest difference when it comes to 5G and 6G is rather in this area of key value indicators. So that the added value that we hopefully will see in the area of privacy, trustworthiness of systems, and this is a bit difficult to grasp, but these are areas where I believe we will make significant progress when it comes to 6G, integrating of different networks and sub-networks, as we have discussed before, ensuring the reliability, the availability of services. I think these will be areas where I see a significant progress.
So security will be one of the key functional areas, and not only as security against attackers, but also as enabler for new business cases, enabler for privacy, yes, etc.
Yes.
Okay, so we will see that the infrastructure can support new business chains just because it enables the necessary security.
Hans, I think it's too early to call because we are in the start of the journey of 6G. Especially for the use cases, there is an exploitation phase. If we come together next year, I think we will have much more to say. For me, it's too early to call.
I hope so. Otherwise, we wouldn't have this nice kind of event next year again. So I guess we will all enjoy to have this again and hope to have it many more years to
And
come.
wouldn't
And
mind
then
be
go to
invited.
Oktoberfest.
And hopefully including Oktoberfest. Yes. Okay.
But if you have a look at the 6G triangle and the latency that's defined there, then potentially this will enable use cases like co-roboting we were discussing today, or autonomous driving in a complicated traffic situation. If the latency is too big, maybe there's an issue. So I'm pretty sure at least some of the parameters have the potential to help there.
Okay. So it's more latency than bandwidth.
It depends a little bit on
That was
the
also one of the
situation.
questions. That's why I'm asking again. Sorry.
In that case, for sure, it's more latency. In other cases, it might be coming back to Oktoberfest and you have 10,000 people in one tent and one base station and you want to have, everybody wants to send the image with the beer stone. Maybe then it's bandwidth as well. I don't know. It depends a bit.
If somebody has a slice, he can send and pay for this. He can send the picture on a guaranteed manner. Don't worry. I said there are technologies that they can serve you today, but these are simple things.
I have one question on with your expertise on Munich. So one of the use cases that's currently discussed, and to be frank, for 5G as well, is to enable participation. So XR, virtual reality, might help to easier explain investment, infrastructure, building to the population, and with this increase acceptance and speed up the process, important for transformation of our infrastructure and society. Would you share the view that indeed better means of participation could help?
Participation is one of the key ingredients of the city of Munich. You will realize it when you open a newspaper, either online or offline with a real paper or in the internet, that people should have the possibility to give their comments on huge projects in Munich, whether this is the traffic, whether this is some huge buildings. You may realize these two towers which are in discussion. And COVID had one good thing: it digitalized the, let's say, participation of the normal citizen. So a normal person can easily access or have access to the city's council, to the city's clerks like me, and get into a discussion, of course not one-to-one, but with the right guys. But I do expect an improvement of that from 6G. I do not expect any disruption, because this disruption has already happened the last 1.5 or the last 2 years. Maybe it's more virtual, maybe it's 3D, maybe it's a better quality, maybe you feel more integrated, but in the end it's about moderation. In the end it's about people discussing with each other, and that's something which you cannot replace with 6G or digitalization. So the access can be easier, but the content must still be done by people.
Yes, of course. It's just that the visualization and imagination could, of course, be supported by technical means so that we can faster share a certain view to a larger population. That was kind of idea. But I understand that that would help.
We have one thing, we call it the digital twin. That's the digital twin of the city of Munich. We try to simulate the traffic. We try to simulate wind schemes in order to build up new areas. We try to simulate the public transport system, how this will react if something is changed. That digital twin, I can imagine, could be a little bit easier accessible for people, in the meaning of finding better ways to maneuver through the city in the meaning of, do I travel with my bike, do I travel with my car, do I take the train, the subway, or whatever. That could be a use case for a fast network, or the famous autonomous driving thing. I still do not believe that anyone will ever really insure a car which is autonomously driving and take the responsibility for any latency, for any maybe wrongly working computer, and having the responsibility for people maybe dying or getting in any accident. That's an imagination I do not have at the moment. But if 6G enables it in a technical way for cars, or should enable it in the meaning of a vision, it could easily do that also for, let's say, a pedestrian, for a bicycle driver, in the meaning of, when I cross this street, there is something coming from the left which I do not see already, and it can avoid accidents. And that's a little bit a mixed thing between the digital twin, between identifying people wearing a smartphone, some wearable devices, and the digital twin of the city. It demands huge capacities of gigabytes of streaming, and if these are faster, cheaper, this could be an imagination for a scenery in 2035, helping people.
Okay. And the digital twin that we also use as term is, of course, seen also as one of the strongest enabler for sustainability, with a high potential to reduce emissions.
I think the word sustainability is
emission reduction. I agree completely. Let's talk about reducing emissions.
It's a word everyone is using, and everyone has a different imagination. So sustainable is not the thing I would mention in first. Security, comfort. This is the thing which the normal citizen demands. To make it sustainable in the ecological way, this is what everyone expects to do, but in the end it is about computing, it's about having transmissions that needs energy. The energy must come from somewhere, and I don't see how 6G could contribute to that, other than making it faster with less energy. That's the only thing, but that's already the case from 3G to 4G to 5G, and 6G will make hopefully the same or make it better.
One of the ideas is, of course, to have a kind of an energy awareness, so that you can ask the system to tell you how much energy would be consumed if you do certain tasks now or later. And then you can, of course, schedule depending on energy consumption.
I'm absolutely sure that everyone will put on his pullover in the winter if he's told that he's saving some kilograms of CO2 and freezing in his flat. That's absolutely one thing I'm sure of it will happen. Yeah.
Okay, understood. Yeah. For the last minutes, I would like to touch one application area that was mentioned today very frequently. Okay, very frequently. Okay, then we have a few minutes now, but that was not yet addressed here, which is the health sector. So. Michael already mentioned that probably security, enabling privacy, etc., is one of the key things where 6G might really make a difference to what we have seen in the past. That is in particular, of course, relevant when we talk about personal health or health applications. So would you share the view that health might also be one of the application areas that could be important?
Absolutely. I think not so much in the city, because we have close hospitals nearby, but on the countryside, imagine a heart attack, imagine any more complicated case which could be taken care of by a robot, by something automated. The human being operating is maybe in Großhadern, at the clinical site, and the one who is being operated is on the Zugspitze, for example. Yeah. That could be a use case for making some health improvement. I can also imagine monitoring people who have some issues, but that's already the case, so that's nothing new, I can imagine, for 2035. For the countryside, yes, if I just look at the city, and that's my primarily view I take, a little bit difficult to imagine use cases more than now.
Okay.
Let me take the floor. I think, and thinking about what is happening globally, and I have the experience of the discussions we're having with other parts of the world. Use cases in medicine and in healthcare in general are taking a major role, and there is a huge room of improvement. Let me give you an example. There is a car accident somewhere, and the hospital needs to know what to expect from the injured person. Today, they're just having, let's say, voice communication or some basic signal sent like ECG and so on, but nothing more. How about, let's say, building ambulance or some nurses that are coming, or notards that are coming into the place, and they are transmitting the icon of the injured person, including the basic examinations that are happening on site, and the hospital to be prepared what they should expect. One idea. Secondly, we're speaking about sensing. Sensing means that we have maybe old people that are somewhere living alone, and you need, let's say, to detect the status of these people. If they are sleeping, if they're having a heart attack, if they fell from their beds and so on. With today's technology, this is a little bit complicated. But these are use cases that are really under evaluation globally. And there is a lot of discussion how on the way to 6G we can implement such use cases in order to improve the human life. I would not go to the ultimate goal, which is remote surgery and all these fancy things, yeah? But we can start small and start growing. That's why I said continuous development and integration. There are use cases that are really making sense to exploit from today and growing up to 2035 in order to help our society.
Good. There is one more question coming in. Do you also envision a digital twin application for a whole factory, as it is envisioned for the city of Munich? Want to comment on this? Otherwise, I could also comment on this.
I'm not aware of the fact that any of our larger car manufacturers we have in the city, not to name BMW. Did I just
Really? Oh, okay. We haven't heard about this.
I think BMW already has some 5G network in their factories, but I have no idea what they use it especially for, other than the production methods, measuring the cars, measuring the quantity, or whatever technical stuff they transmit. Because 6G for me is a way of transmitting data. The collecting of the data, which you meant by the health applications, sensors, is, in my opinion, another thing. If I'm talking about sensors, I'm talking about medicine, but some technical stuff, measuring, sensoring, anything. If I'm talking about 6G, in my opinion, it's the network which transmits the collected data to another place, to compute it, to digitalize it, or do whatever the things. We, as the city, will never be the operator of any 6G network. Never. Because that's nothing we are capable of. We use the help of maybe our own companies, which is called Stadtwerke, Mnet. Someone may know that, the Deutsche Telekom or any other of the telco network operators. So any 6G network regarding the city of Munich itself, the administration, will be operated by someone else, but never the city itself.
Okay. By the way, you will like to hear that BMW was already participant in the very first 5G project, the European METIS project led by Ericsson, and BMW was present there, so they were really forerunner in this area. the digital city, the digital twin of a whole factory is indeed currently in the smart production community a hot topic, because there is a high potential seen. So at DFKI, we have the smart factory, and they are working on this because there is seen a high potential for increasing flexibility, for also reducing emissions by prediction, by better planning, by not being forced to first try things. So you can easier, of course, then do a planning process and see what happens. You can improve logistics. So there are many means how a digital twin can help to make a factory more productive. And of course, any digital twin depends on a real-time image of what is happening. So a high capacity, low latency, reliable communication, wireless, and sensing. You also need to know where devices are. So that indeed I see this as an important example for how 5G, 6G can help to make to drive this transformation.
But I see here one problem, and that is actually that we haven't seen the full potential of 5G in factory halls, right? There's a lot of functionality standardized, but it's simply early, right? We have deployed now 5G in the public networks, but we haven't really seen those 5G networks operating in factory environments and really critical business environments. And I'm expecting that once we see how those systems behave, what the capabilities are, this will also initiate another innovation cycle, which will definitely have an impact on 6G, which is difficult to predict right now, because you simply don't have these experiences that we will make in 3-4 years.
Okay, great. So I guess we have...
One more minute, one more question maybe.
Okay, so we don't really have more question, but then I would like to invite you one sentence, so you have here the collected community of researchers and managers probably deciding about how we go ahead with 6G, at least for the German and European research community. So any one sentence wish that you would like to bring over?
It's a journey. I will invite everyone to join us. We need to drive this road together, and to really, I'm saying again, it's the last opportunity for the European industry to grow again and be a major player in the global market.
Okay, thank you.
The last words for the execution.
Oktoberfest.
City of Munich.
Invite us for the next year, Oktoberfest.
Which will happen, which will take place.
Okay.
But the City of Munich wants to be a good partner for the industry, for the tech industry, and that means that we have a good infrastructure. Having a good infrastructure means 6G, and not only the drinking infrastructure, that's a huge thing too, but it means to have a technical infrastructure, glass fiber networks, 6G networks, at least 5G networks. The rooftops, which a 5G antenna is standing on, identifying them, covering them not to see each and every antenna in the city's view. That's what we want to be a partner for, but we also want to make a huge profit on a good infrastructure, in the meaning of getting good companies into the city, working here, and of course paying taxes. That's one of the main focuses we have, unfortunately.
Okay, great.
Maybe we can help there as Rohde & Schwarz with 6G, because if I have a look at the things we were discussing, it's sensing, it's radar, it's imaging, microwave imaging, it's communications. So all the stuff we are working on, we are working in. So I'm looking forward to make that happen, sell a lot of test equipment, and make the city of Munich happy by paying a lot of tax.
Which you already do.
Okay. And Michael?
Yeah, I think these are really interesting times. I like to see that the German government really put the foot down to spend a lot of money to enable a lot of research activities in Germany, as we've seen today. I'm really looking forward that this will have a major impact, as Kostas is saying, on the European industry.
Great. Thank you very much.